Well, hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me. My name's Dave. You probably don't know who I am, but I actually have another YouTube channel called Chase to Summit, where I have like 23,000 subscribers, and I've got a bunch of videos on there. So if you want to check out my other stuff, it's based around sports and fitness technology, and it's in that kind of realm. So if you're interested in that, check out the link down in the description. But I didn't want to post this video there because this video is really about nerding out on studio gear. In particular, I'm going to be talking about some studio mixers here. These are Podtrack mixers, podcast mixers rather. And I just want to compare these two because I don't see this anywhere else on YouTube right now. So I'm going to take it on myself. I am certainly no Curtis Judd or any of those guys who do like major gear and audio and camera reviews. I'm really a YouTuber first, but also I love the gear that helps me make better content. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. So what I have in front of me is two mixers that are primarily designed for podcasting, but are also really good for live streaming. And that's kind of what I'm interested in. So on the left here, I've got the brand new Zoom Podtrack P8. And this thing just hit the market. There's really there's barely any videos on YouTube about it. There's a couple by like B&H Photo and then a couple of people who bought it, but really there's no direct side-by-side comparison out there right now. And then on the right here, we've got the Rodecaster Pro, the Rodecaster Pro. And this has kind of been the gold standard for everyone in terms of live streaming and, podcasting and things like that. And then Zoom has come to the table and created this thing, which is very competitive in the same market. To make things fair, I'm also using the exact same microphone on both of these mixers. I've got two Rode pod mics here, and they're just on tabletop stands with the exact same cables and everything going directly into the mixer, no cloud lifter or anything like that. So from a high level, these things are designed very similarly. They both has very large touchscreen displays, and they're very responsive. They've got their sound pads for jingles and things like that. So I can make, I can bring my music in, and I can bring my music in over here. Same thing. These things are very similarly designed. The Podtrack P8 has a LCD display that's also touchscreen, and so does the Rodecaster Pro. They both have faders, and they both have mute buttons for all of their switches and stuff. The Podtrack P8 has 6 inputs for XLR, where the Rodecaster Pro only has 4. But the Rodecaster Pro actually has Bluetooth built in, so you can pair your phone with it, and then you can take phone calls directly to the mixer, whereas on the Zoom, you actually have to buy an add-on to do that sort of thing. That isn't really a big deal for me because on both, you can plug your phone directly in using a little, Apple dongle thing for a TRRS cable. So that's probably what I'll use for phone calls. But in reality, most of my calls are over USB using my MacBook on something like Skype or OBS Ninja or Ecamm Live. And both of these mixers have the ability to do USB phone calls with USB mix minus, so your callers won't hear themselves, and that's really valuable. So I'm not going to go through all of the features of these two mixers. I just want to talk about what I think about the Zoom Podtrack P8 so far and how it stacks up against the Rodecaster Pro that I've been using for a little while. There's a few things that set it apart. First of all, the faders on the Rodecaster Pro are way bigger, so there's a lot more stroke to them. However, the faders on the Zoom Podtrack P8 are actually smoother. They actually feel a little bit more premium than the Rodecaster Pro, which I was kind of surprised about. They definitely don't have as much stroke as the Rode, but they do feel a little bit nicer. The other big thing for me was file management. So on the Rodecaster Pro, if you want a multi-track file, it comes out as a polywave file, which is one file that has to be like parsed out for all the different tracks, or you can just take a stereo mix, but I like having the individual tracks. It's kind of nice. But that extra step to convert the polywave file is actually really time consuming, and it's kind of frustrating for me. So I'd rather not have to deal with that at all. Whereas on the Zoom Podtrack P8, it comes out as individual wave files right off the bat. You don't even have to worry about it. Basically, you pop the SD card out, put it in your computer, and the files are ready to edit. The other big difference is the actual size of the SD card. The Zoom Podtrack P8 uses a full-sized SD card, which I have a bunch of, and the Rodecaster Pro uses the tiny micro SD cards. Not a huge deal, like the SD card barely leaves the unit, but still something to consider if you just want to pop out the card and put it in your computer. You're probably going to need an added accessory to do that with the Rodecaster Pro. A couple of other observations, the Zoom Podtrack P8 will actually convert files for you. So if you want to assign some sort of WAV file or AIF or MP3 or whatever to one of your sound pads, all you have to do is drop it on your SD card and set it as one of your sound pads in the menu. It's actually really easy to do using this menu. And the actual unit will convert it to the right file type. While the Rodecaster Pro, you actually have to make sure it's the right WAV file, or else it'll just tell you can't use it. So you have to like convert it. It's kind of a headache. Like overall, like the file management and all of that stuff is just so much easier on the Podtrack P8. And I'm kind of leaning towards it just for that very reason. The other thing, because of the Zoom Podtrack P8 having 6 inputs, it also has 6 headphone preamps, whereas the Rodecaster Pro only has 4. I don't really know if I'd ever have 4 to 6 people ever in a room at the same time, especially during a pandemic, but it is nice to have that added flexibility with the Zoom Podtrack P8. Both of these units have built-in effects on board, and you can access them pretty easily on both. So on the Zoom Podtrack P8, you just select the little microphone icon at the bottom here, and then you've got your effects menu. On the Rodecaster Pro, you just press the track number here, and then you've got all of your effects in here. This is where the Rodecaster Pro has a huge advantage. You've got high pass filter, noise gate, de-esser, compressor, and Aphex plugins, which are like an oral exciter and a big bottom. It's kind of like a bass boost kind of thing, where on the Zoom Podtrack P8, it's much more simple. You've only got access to a limiter, a low cut, the tone control, which is just a dial between bass and treble, and then compressor de-esser. So something missing entirely on the Podtrack P8 is any sort of noise gate, and that's why the Rodecaster Pro is probably a better tool for live streaming, which, you know, that's something I'm really interested in. So I don't know which way to go here. I really like the sound coming out of the Zoom. I think it has cleaner preamps. There's less hiss. So if I stop talking for a second, you're going to hear it fall off on the Rodecaster Pro because I actually have the noise gate turned on. So let me turn off all of the effects on both of these and we'll just hear raw audio. Hang on one second. So now we're listening to just raw audio from both the Zoom Podtrack P8 and the Rodecaster Pro. There are no effects turned on right now. It is just bare bottom, the pod mic directly plugged into the unit itself, and then it's coming to you. So this is what it sounds like without any effects on board. You can tell there's quite a bit going on with those effects. It really boosts up the gain. You can hear my voice a lot more clearer. But if you listen to the noise floor now, let's be quiet for a second. This is a pretty quiet room. There is some traffic outside, so you might hear that, but both are pretty quiet. I do think that the Zoom has slightly less noise floor, less hiss in that low end when you stop talking. But because the Rodecaster Pro has that built-in noise gate, it's kind of a toss-up. Do you want a cleaner preamp or do you want the noise gate built in? I really like the noise gate. I really wish the Zoom had the noise gate, so I don't know which way to go here. That said, the Rodecaster Pro preamps are actually really good, but the preamps on the Podtrack P8 just sound a little bit better to me. I don't know. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Okay, now we've got the effects turned back on, so I don't sound so terrible. And the final difference between these two is really kind of vain. It's just the looks of them. I think the Rodecaster Pro looks really cool. The Zoom definitely doesn't look bad, but the Rodecaster Pro does look like a premium piece of equipment. It's got the Rode logo on it, so we all like that. But there is a big deal with the Zoom Podtrack P8. First of all, it is much smaller. It's hard to see on camera, but the Rodecaster Pro is kind of a beast. The Zoom Podtrack P8 is much smaller. It's probably maybe 2 inches. Like imagine if the Rodecaster Pro didn't have this kind of last row of sound pads here. It would probably be about that size. So in terms of size, the Podtrack P8 definitely wins that category. And it's very light too. The Podtrack P8 is way lighter than the Rodecaster Pro. Another big difference is how you can power these devices. Out of the box, the Rodecaster Pro only can work over an AC adapter that you plug into the back here, but you can buy an additional accessory to USB power it. That accessory is 20 bucks, so it is something you have to buy on top of it. Also, you'll need a power bank to power it, so you need a USB Type A power bank of some sort to power it. And then the Zoom Podtrack P8 can actually run off of 4 AA batteries for up to 3.5 hours. So that's kind of cool if you wanted to just go into the field and not have to worry about a power source, and you knew your podcast or whatever was only a few hours. The Podtrack P8 can also be bus powered over USB Type-C in the back. That also turns it into a USB interface for your computer. The problem with that is it's only a stereo interface, so you don't have access to the multi-channel. Here, it's only a stereo mix of everything going out to the USB to your computer. Again, that's not a huge deal for me because I'm mainly doing live streams and stuff, so I don't really need the multi-track capabilities. If I want to record multi-track, I'll just do it internally. The Rodecaster Pro cannot be powered over USB, but it can do multi-track output over USB, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so I don't really know what else to talk about in this video. I just really wanted to put something out there because I had questions about these two devices and I couldn't find any answers on YouTube. No one was comparing these two. So here they are. And here's how they sound. I hope this helped you in some way make a decision between these two. I know I was struggling with that decision. I still kind of am. If you found this video helpful in some way, whack that like button, consider subscribing, check out my other channel that I have linked down in the description. I'd also be interested to know which one you thought sounds better. Do you think the noise gate is more valuable to have than, you know, the cleaner input on the Zoom Podtrack P8 or vice versa? Well, this was weird. I don't usually do videos like this. If you thought this was entertaining, let me know because maybe I'll do more about cameras and audio and stuff. I don't know.